Hey everybody, thank you so much for finding us here at Press A to Talk. This is the second episode of our titular show, Press A to Talk. I'll come up with a better intro than that sometime. My name's Kurt and I'm here with John. How are you, John?
Hello, hello. Doing well.
Good. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Pokemon. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger Paradise, and we're going to end the show with bringing Ryder in to talk about Elden Ring. But before we do any of that, I want to talk about a little game called Nobody Saves the World. Now, John, you watched me play this a little bit the other night, just kind of hanging out. Had you heard of this
hmm
game at all before that?
Not at all. No,
Okay. Have you heard of a game called Guacamelee?
no.
Okay.
Does it have to do with guacamole?
It's a luchador themed Metroidvania.
Ah,
Apparently it's super good. I haven't had the pleasure of playing it, although I should, because that sounds right up my alley. But this is
hmm
by the same developers, Drinkbox Studios, I believe. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Um, but it's super good. I keep looking from the camera because I know that's good eye contact to like looking at where you are on the screen, John. And so people are just gonna have to deal with that because I'm gonna look at you because it's weird staring at the camera. Um, John,
makes
it's
sense.
it's really good. I was like playing it, and I'm just like, man, is this my game of the year? Like, I've beaten Horizon, Pokemon Arceus, played quite a bit of Elden Ring, beat Kirby, and I'm just like having the best time playing this. I put in 16 hours before I beat it, and I did all of that in one weekend. Like that's how much I
hmm
was just like, I gotta play this. I haven't had a game hit me like that in forever. Um, but I don't think it's my game of the year, but it's really good. To explain what it is, you start out as nobody, just a little white cartoon character, and you find a magic wand that lets you transform into a rat. And the rat has abilities like you bite enemies and they get poison damage. All right, and then you complete quests like poison 30 enemies, and when you do that, you earn experience. You earn experience, and that levels up, lets you unlock new forms that you can turn into with the wand, like the knight and the ranger. The knight has a sword slash. The ranger has poison tipped arrows. You get a quest for the knight slash 60 enemies with your sword. You complete that, you get experience, and it just continues going on and on like that until you unlock some really cool forms at the end that I'm not going to spoil. Um, but the really cool part with the game is that you eventually unlock the ability to mix and match what you're doing. So you can become a rat that shoots poison tips arrows, or you can become, I guess, a small spoiler. You can become a horse that breathes fire, or a ghost that launches missiles. Like it's really silly and really creative. And the quests go along with that when you unlock that ability, and it's like, hey, using the ghost ability that causes people to feel fear, attach the ranger's ability that shoots arrows, and then hit 30 enemies that are running away from you with arrows. It's like really clever combinations of like, now that you can do this, figure out the best way to accomplish these things. Um, and it's just watching bars fill up and numbers get higher, and really that's all we're here for at the end of the day, I think. But yeah, I just wanted to spiel about that. I'm not saying everyone has to run and go play it now, but if you see it, if it's on sale or you just got money, you need something to play, like please go play Nobody Saves the World because it's very good. I will say, John, you know me, I'm not really into crude humor. There is quite
hmm
a bit of crude humor in the game, which I don't I don't love, but I don't really mind it because it gives it a really interesting personality. Because the premise of the game is that there's like a world-ending calamity happening, but everybody's being pretty gung ho about it, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I mostly just wanted to use this as a soapbox to talk at all of you for a minute. John, did you want to ask anything about it?
Um, well, you covered everything I was gonna say. I just thought it was very cool to run around as a horse that could breathe fire on things. So that was the main thing. My takeaway from it, because I came in after you had already beaten the game. You were
hmm
clearing up some of the side areas that weren't part of having to finish the main story.
Yeah,
And just jumping in and watching that and just seeing all the humor that goes into all the combinations you can make with your character definitely make that game very unique. And yeah, I would recommend you check it out too. That's someone that got to watch Kurt playing it, so
yeah, and I know I put you on the spot there, but it's a cool
that's
game
fine.
if you guys are interested. All right, now I'm going to let John talk for a long time because we are going to talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. But first, John, you've just completed a major milestone that some would say is impossible. Uh, t-
Or
t-
annoyingly tedious,
Tell the
depends
folks
on
what you did.
depends on your viewpoint. Yeah, so I actually finished a living dex for Pokemon. So I have one of every single Pokemon, and I got them all put in Pokemon Home. All the ones you can put there anyway. There's still no connectivity with Pokemon Legends Arceus just yet. So there are a few that were added, that variants and that were added in that game that I haven't gotten to move to my Pokemon Home.
Right.
But everything else is in there and it's all in order. I just putting everything in order was a tedious process. So, but yeah, I got one of every Pokemon. I was very excited to finally finish that. And every Pokemon that I could, I made sure to make myself the original trainer. That excludes event Pokemon, Mythicals,
Yeah,
and the Furfrou and some Vivillons
because you can only get those
because
from Pokemon Go and other regions.
right, exactly. So that was so the most interesting stuff to collect was the Furfrou and the Vivillons because you can change the region on a DS to only certain ones. And so what I had to do for those was to new playthroughs multiple times to go and collect I believe they're called scatterbugs.
Yeah,
I hope that's correct.
that's right.
And
It's Pupa.
eventually, I think at level 19, they evolve into Vivillon. But the region variants, you have to catch the scatterbug in the region you want the Vivillon to be from, and it changes its appearance. And I'm gonna butcher this. There's like 20 something different regions, and only your DSs are region locked. So there's three different main regions that were involved with the Vivillons. So I had to collect a bunch of each region on the US based region lock
Mm.
and then go trade in the Pokemon Home app on your phone with people from all around the world to collect the other Vivillons. And I actually ended up with five of each type of
Oh
Vivillon
my
and then a
gosh.
few extras. Yeah. And I mean, because why not collect a bunch of the ones that I already, made a whole new playthrough of Pokemon X or Y, whichever one it was, and had to go collect a bunch of them. I was like, well, might as well go do like eight of them so I have some to trade, you know?
Yeah, and just to interject, because I don't know that I heard you say it, John, you not only collected every Pokemon, but you collected every form of every Pokemon. So lots and
Yep.
lots of duplicates for like Alchemy and for Vivillon and that kind of thing.
Yes, I have every version of Alcremie, and I think that there's like 60 something of them, counting the shinies, which I also have. There are 70 of them, if I remember correctly. So, um, I gotta say the most tedious one, now that I'm thinking about it, would probably be getting the different Deoxys variants.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to collect all those Deoxyses, there's four of them, you have to play through the entirety of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And then um, you have a mission at the very end to go get Deoxys. It's coming in on a meteor that's going to be hitting the Pokemon world and you fly up on a Rayquaza, and then you get to battle it and catch it. Well, I had to beat the whole game four times just to do that. That was the one that was the most tedious.
That
I
sounds
actually I felt like a
ridiculous.
speedrunner running through the game though, doing it that many times.
So how many?
Mhm.
Just if you don't know off the top of your head, just estimate how many full game playthroughs did this require you to complete?
Let's see. So I played through Sword, played through Shield, X and Y. I played through. It, I'm gonna say three times. There's a reason.
Each.
Oh, no, no, just collectively
Okay.
because they have a Moltres, a Zapdos, and a Articuno. So I
Okay.
had to play through at least three times.
Okay.
So and then Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, I played through four times, and then I stole your copy of what game was that?
Black
Black or
and Black
White?
2. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one, and
Oh yeah,
then
you played all the way through that
we
one.
we played through Sun 11.
11 full playthroughs, and then you also you haven't traded them, but you also have unique Pokemon from Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Yes,
So
and
that's.
I beat through Arceus too. Yeah.
Are there any Pokemon in Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl that you like need to transfer over for it to be complete?
I was going to,
Uh huh.
but they've been taking too long on doing the update for Pokemon Home, so I'm not transferring anything over from that.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is 12 full game playthroughs. And then he said that he wanted to be the original trainer on all of them, and he took that so seriously that I offered to play through Ultra Moon because I wanted to play
Oh
through
yeah.
that and name my character his trainer name, and then just trade him all the Pokemon that he needs from that game. And I was like, it took me a couple months to get through it, working a job and everything. And then when I was like at the very end, he's like, "Yeah, I just got Sun and I just played through the whole thing and I have everything, so you're good." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's ridiculous." And I was like, "Let me save you 40 hours." And he's like, "No, it's no problem. It's just 40 hours. I got it."
No, when you speed run them, it cuts the time in half.
Yeah, that's true. That's
You just,
true. It
you just
was.
got to have that mindset. Yeah. So that was one of the things that you have to take into account when I was playing this. I had boxes upon boxes of Pokemon that were ready to go. I had them at varying levels. So in order to speed, I'm going to quote speed run here. I wasn't trying to make any challenge out of it or anything. I was just trying to get through the game. So I had a lot of starters just hatched out of eggs at level 1,
Mhm.
and then I would just transfer them to my new game, and I would start with um, a full team of starters that were somewhere in between like level 1 and level 10 to get started. Because before the first gym, as long as the Pokemon I believe are below level 15 or 10, I can't remember, they obey you. And so after you hit that first gym, it's game time because you get to, I think it's level 30 on some of the games.
Some
I
of
can't
them, yeah.
remember at this point. It's been a while. But so I would just transfer and I would have just rows dedicated to whenever I beat certain gyms to just swap out my teams entirely, just so I could sweep through the game without having to worry about anything. I figured out all the trainers I could avoid and everything. So I was just taking the barest routes possible to get through the games, and it was really funny. But and then ending on Pokemon Sun, and then I figured out yeah, you did Moon, right? Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
I did
did Sun.
Ultra Moon.
Yeah. So I keep forgetting which one I did, but I know I did the correct one. So it was funny though, I did not know whenever I got to the end of Sun that they added in new Pokemon to the Ultra versions instead of the regular versions. And so I had to start a new playthrough of Pokemon.
Power off.
Sorry about that. My speaker turned itself off. So um, Pokemon Sword, I had to start a new playthrough on my Switch with a different user profile
Yeah.
just to get to the DLC area that lets you catch Pokemon in the Dynamax adventures.
Hmm.
And I had to sit there for, those were the last two Pokemon I needed, Celestelia and Blacephalon. Look at me saying those probably correctly. I don't know. But
The clown
I
and
sat
the
there
tower
like
thing.
off and on for nearly a day waiting for those to spawn for me. And then I figured out that you actually had to do something in order to get them to spawn. Because by default, it does not make Ultra Beasts appear
Oh
in the
gosh.
Dynamax Adventures. So I figured out that you have to go and do the DLC missions and catch all the different what are they? What were they in the game? So Calyrex, the Galarian, legendary birds, the Reggies,
And had you done that
and you had to
already?
go. Well, I had to start a new playthrough to do that.
Well, what I mean is, like, had you done that before in like a different playthrough?
I had gotten it halfway done, but I was going to shiny hunt for some stuff, so
Gotcha.
I left it on. I haven't done it on my main playthrough,
Mm.
but I have the side one that I went ahead and did it on, so I could open up the Ultra Beast just for me to do that. So I wasted like half of a day to nearly a full day of trying to spawn those in, and I didn't realize that I couldn't.
That's
So,
crazy, John. So
and then I figured
go
out
ahead. Yeah.
that to increase my odds of getting them, I just started catching all the other legendaries that were spawning. So, yeah, I eventually got them. Uh-huh.
So 12 and a half playthroughs plus some DLC. All right. I'm
Hmm.
not asking for hours, just like a rough span of time, like weeks, months, years. Like, how long did this take?
I off and on started this in September, and then I finished it maybe in late January,
I forgot you started so
February.
soon. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I wasn't like doing nothing else in my free time but this. It's just stuff I was doing when I had free time, when
Mm.
I was watching a TV show, a movie or something, and I could just, watch that and just like not even paying attention to the game, just moving around, beating gyms and going on because most of the stuff I needed was at the end of the games anyway. So I
Right.
just, yeah. And then when I had playthroughs done, I would go and catch the other Pokemon that you can't get in Sword and Shield.
Mm,
So there are I had to Google it before our thing here, but 232 Pokemon you cannot catch in Sword and Shield. So I had to that's why I had to do so many playthroughs on the DS and the
right.
3DS were to get those. So yeah. And then what was funny, the Blacephalon actually came out shiny out of the Dynamax Adventures.
Hey,
I was very excited because I
icing on
needed it.
top.
It finally showed up, and then it was shiny. And then I believe the last Pokemon I got was the Celestelia, which arms look like bamboo, and it's great.
Well, John, I'm very happy for you. I'm very proud of you. My accomplishment of being 11 and completing the Pokemon Pearl Pokédex means nothing now, and I hope you know that you're the reason that that's the case.
Oh, well, I'm
Um,
glad I could help you out with that.
any tips for anybody who's trying to do the same thing you're doing before we move on to Legends Arceus?
Yeah, I would have saved a lot of time if I would have just started a new profile and collected all of the legendaries from Sword and Shield. I didn't think about it until I had well, I didn't have my Switch at the time. I was letting a relative borrow it. And so I was like, well, I'll just start collecting them on the 3DS. And then when I finally got my Switch back, I was like, man, that could have saved me a lot of time if I'd have just had this. But, hindsight 2020. So.
Yeah, and was this like the DLC, the Dynamax Adventures stuff? Yeah,
Yes, so you can get a lot, I think almost all the legendaries in that. You can't get Deoxys, of course, the one that took me the longest, but,
well, that's a mythical,
got,
John. That's not a legendary, so you know.
oh, yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah.
Well, John, I'm gonna give you a one-man round of applause. That's gonna sound amazing on the mic, I'm sure. Is that even coming through? Or is it noise canceling?
Yeah, I hear it.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, cool. I will never attempt anything like this, so I'm happy that I can live vicariously through you. One Pokemon game that I did play, one thing that I did do was I played Pokemon Legends Arceus. This came out back in January, kind of the middle, the end of January. I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, and it kind of took the world by storm. It looked really rough before, like in pre-launch footage.
hmm hmm
Ran better in the actual release. Still not perfect, but before we talk about any of the technical hiccups, let's talk about just what do you think of the game, John?
Well, I put off playing. Well, let me rephrase. So, I got Pokemon Arceus the day it came out. I played for 12 hours that weekend, and then I never picked it up again because I told myself I wanted to finish my living decks before I started it. And so that was my way of being like, there's you a treat to get your living decks done is you can go play Arceus and then go catch more Pokemon. And that's exactly what I did. So whenever I got the living decks done, I moved over to Pokemon Arceus, and at this point, I've played through the whole game. But there was one good thing about me waiting on that, because in the meantime, they pushed out updates for for the game, and that included massive mass outbreaks, and those are amazing, and they are very very helpful in shiny hunting. So I've actually gotten, I think, nearly a full box of shinies just from doing massive mass outbreaks and just playing through the game.
Nice. And you're
So
collecting those going towards your living shiny decks that you're working on now?
no, but maybe one day. That is a lot of work.
So just overall thoughts on the game, for me at least. I went in and I didn't 100% know what to expect. I knew it was you're actually going to run around. Pokemon are actually going to be in the overworld. You're actually going to aim with a reticle and throw Pokeballs. I was like, oh, okay. I'm the one person in the world who I don't know that I want that. I don't really mind just run around in the grass. I think it's cool that I see them when they pop up, like in Let's Go Eevee or in the wild areas. But then when I'm battling them, I kind of just want it to be a battle, and then I throw a Pokeball, and if they pop out, I throw 11 more. That's just how it is. I played this game for probably 6 or 7 hours, and I was like, I don't know. And I was trying to fill out the Pokédex pages, and a lot of them were just like, catch 30 of this. And I'm like, this feels like Pokemon Go. And I like Pokemon Go, but I don't want my console experience to be like Pokemon Go, because that's not what Pokemon Go's for. But then I realized, like, oh, I don't need to do all these objectives. I just kind of need to do some of these objectives. Oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, and I also, it's not really that important that I fill out all the information, especially because I'm the type of person that's going to catch every Pokemon that I see. So I was like, I don't need to do all this just to progress. And that's what it felt like. It felt like there was a wall to progress. It was
Hmm.
like, no, if I just catch each Pokemon, use the ones that I like, evolve the ones, and make them use different moves, like it's gonna be fine. And it was really freeing when I did that. I started making my own team instead of just constantly feeling like I had to rotate out my Pokemon or I wouldn't be able to progress. And I started enjoying the stealth, as simple as it is. I enjoyed the fast or the swift and what is it, agile and strong attacks.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though to this day I'm not sure how those mechanics actually function, because sometimes I would use an agile attack and then I would be slower, and then I use a strong attack and it didn't seem like it mattered. I don't know. I'm just kind of talking in circles, but I really ended up enjoying it. And I'm a teacher, and we had some weather days where it was too icy to go to the school, so we had virtual days. Um,
Dang.
yeah, dang. And so in between some of my classes, I was like, well, I'm already home, so I booted up Legends Arceus, and I was just like wholly invested in those, and it was, I don't know, just a ton of fun. Um, how was your experience getting into this new formula of Pokemon?
Well, I gotta say, I agree with you on the Pokédex. I think it's very tedious if you want to 100% complete it.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the fact of getting the entries, but in order to get the 100% completed all the requirements on the page for each of the Pokemon. Luckily, to get the shiny charm, I believe you only have to have the research level 10 for each of them.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
right.
that's good at least. But, in the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, you should finish that. And I to this day I have not gotten
Same.
the shiny charm. So, but with the mass outbreaks, you don't really need it. The odds are really high already. So compared to previous games for sure anyway. So, I'm trying to think what was my initial reaction. I did this kind of like most of the other new games that came out this year. I didn't really know anything about it going in. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't try to spoil anything for myself. I just wanted to go in with a clean slate so I could, throw my own opinion at it and see what I could come up with. And having that in mind, whenever I started it, um, I I just really had a good time running around catching Pokemon, just sneaking around in the grass. And then I decided to try to 100% the entries for Talo. That's not right. It's not Talo. Starly, there we go. Um, and Geodude and a few more, and Shinx, yeah, and Bidoof right at the beginning.
Good old
And
Bidoof.
yeah, after I did those, I was like, okay, I'm not doing any more of these.
Mm-hmm. It's a
I was
lot.
like, that was a lot of work, but it's not that difficult to get them at the research level 10, which is good enough for me. But other than that mechanic, I really enjoy getting to ride around on Pokemon, just see them running around and getting to learn all the spawn locations and going back and getting them when I needed them and stuff like that. So, I mean, overall, I really thought it was a great change of pace for the series.
Yeah. And it looks like some of that wandering around the overworld, catching Pokemon is, sneaking around. Well, potentially sneaking around might be coming back with Scarlet and Violet in the main series.
Hmm.
Well, the more traditional main series is technically a main series game. I'm not going to start a debate on that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. When I look back on it, I think about some of the technical hiccups, and I'm like, oh yeah, it wasn't that good. But then I remember like, no, when you played it, you loved it, and you looked past the technical hiccups. But I mean, I think we do have to at least acknowledge like,
There's only
th-
one real thing that annoyed me in it.
go ahead. What was it?
Just the trees, just
The trees.
the standard trees that
Mm-hmm.
you just see. I just that just annoyed me.
Just how they looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one with all the
Uh huh.
branches with the barely any leaves on it.
Yeah.
It just really looks unfinished to me. Like, and as you can see, one of my Pokemon escaped. Uh,
It's really cute.
yeah.
Oh
Hi.
my goodness.
So, hopefully you don't hear the meowing
No, you
going
can't
on.
hear it. Um,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the game. It's 2022. It is on the Switch, so it does get some leeway. But I think I can safely say that like overall, this game doesn't look good. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't look good. The textures are
Sadly.
really muddy. it does a weird thing on the ground where it like blends paths with just like the grass. If you need to take care of that, you can.
No,
Um,
it's fine. I was just trying to see where it went. Nah, it's fine.
um, like it's especially apparent in like the snowy area because there's like a dirt path, and it just like
Yeah.
what it does is just like there's dirt here, there's snow here, and then it like gradually just gradients in the middle to like some kind of grayish brown, and then goes the other way. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
this
that
looks
that part
bad.
makes me sad because snow areas and games are my favorite areas.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. They can be
And
gorgeous.
this one was just flat and uninteresting and just seemed unfinished.
Yeah, and things would just spawn in. I didn't notice it too bad for most of the game, but you eventually get the ability to, and this is in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. You eventually get the ability to fly through the air, and so you can move much quicker. And they just, I mean, I guess it's cool that they did that, but they did not, uh, like,
Polish it for that.
yeah, polish it for that because it's literally I will be flying and there will just be nothing below me, and then like it'll pop in like right as soon as I pass it, and it's like, ooh, this is not good. Like I played open world games on the Wii U that looked and ran better than this. Like what's going on? And that's not exaggeration. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X. That game is gorgeous and it like high fidelity on the Wii U. So I don't know. We I think me, you, and Ryder have definitely talked about this. I think we've done it on mic. So if you've seen our
Yeah.
stuff, you've seen us rant about this before. No, the devs aren't releasing quote unquote unfinished products just to like get away with stuff. I just think it's just a matter of the scheduling. Oh my goodness, it's scheduling
I,
the time, or rather, not scheduling enough time for these games to receive the attention that they need for them to be a polished
this is just
2022
secretly a
experience.
bird.
She's so cute. Which one's this one?
This is Skiddo.
Oh my gosh, that's a Pokemon. It's so cute.
Yeah. That is hilarious.
Is that not why you named it that?
That is exactly why I named it that, but I didn't think of that
Oh, just the
as we were
context of it.
talking. I even made the joke a minute ago. I was like, "Yep, one of my Pokemon got out."
Oh, it's so cute. Oh my gosh. Um, oh my gosh. Okay, back to the game. I'm sorry.
Anyway, yeah, we are focused, I swear.
I mean, this is what they're here for. I'm gonna make this a thumbnail now. Um, did you do any of the post game stuff?
Hmm. I started the post game stuff. I was trying to get through all the side quests,
Uh huh.
and then I just got bogged down finishing up the side quests, and I haven't done all the mythical end stuff. I did catch Darkrai.
Uh huh.
I still have yet to get Arceus.
Okay.
Um,
Have you done a like big post game battle? I'm trying to be vague.
I've done a few of them.
Like a trainer battle.
I did the ones against the leaders of the Diamond
Okay.
Clan, and the
No,
Pearl
you don't know what I'm
Clan.
talking about. Never mind. Um,
No, that's fine. You can mention it.
I, I'll,
It's
I'll
fine at this point.
I'll just say that it's the quest where you collect all the plates, and after you do that, there's a battle, and you
Oh
fight a
yeah, I haven't done
trainer
that yet.
who, not actually, but effectively has 8 Pokemon that are extremely like over leveled. Even like I went in with my normal team and I got wrecked several times in a
Hmm.
row, and I was like, well, I've never done this before, but let's see what happens. And I'd subbed my entire team out for level 70 legendaries that I just caught, and then I went back in and I still got wrecked a couple times, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, time to spend all my money on max revives and max like full restores. And I
Hmm.
eventually did it, and it's cool. But I was just curious if you gotten that because I'm interested to hear your take on that.
Not yet.
It's not as fleshed out of an in game as some games have had. Like I think Diamond and Pearl has an incredible in game, and of course Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You can and or the original Gold and Silver. Those are
Hmm.
ridiculously expansive.
Yeah.
Um,
No kidding.
but there's some cool
Whole
stuff
new
there.
area.
And yeah, and I eventually want to catch Arceus too, but we'll see if I ever sit down and actually complete my Pokédex for that to happen.
Oh, do you have to have the Pokédex done to do that?
Not oh, so yeah, sorry.
No, again, I'm not worried
Yeah,
about
it's
spoilers or anything at this point.
it's you hear like Arceus's voice after you do the big battle, which is
Hmm.
what they set up as like after you do that, then you can see Arceus, but after you do it, it's just like a he's not there, and he's like meet every Pokemon, and then like echoes, and it's like okay, so I gotta complete my Pokédex and You have to at least catch one of everything. I don't know if you have to like
Oh,
fill
okay.
out the entries. And so I'm still missing some of the rarer ones, and then some that only appear in the space time distortions. Like I haven't gotten a Porygon yet, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So, two important questions.
Okay.
One, have you found a recipe for potato mochi at this point? Is that the right name? I
Yes,
think so.
that is the right
Have you
name.
gotten a recipe for it, made it yet?
I don't think. I don't know. I don't think so.
I was just kidding. I was just every time anything
Oh,
happens in the game, it just comes back to, all right, time to eat.
and
And it's
then
the same meal every time.
that dude's like a ninja at the end of the game, and it's amazing.
And he's like, I'm gonna mess you up. And I'm like,
And he's like,
you've been cooking for me the whole time. Yeah, but I don't like you.
yeah, he's pretty. He like it's a kids game, so they don't say it, but he outright says like, "I'm gonna kill you," is what he
Yeah,
says. And then you just haven't had Pokemon strong enough to hold him off. But yeah,
yeah.
did you recognize that he was supposed to be Wally's ancestor from Ruby and Sapphire?
I did not catch
Yeah,
that.
he's got the same green hair and this
That
like
is
hairstyle.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Are there any other characters that are like that? Or is just that
every
one that
single
you know
one,
of?
every character is an ancestor.
I'm so oblivious.
So I don't have all of them memorized, but the three bandits. One of them is
Who are they? Yeah.
one of them is the one of the pigtails is the descendant of Candace, which is the ice type gym leader in Sinnoh. One of them
Hmm.
is the ancestor of Agatha and Bertha, which are Elite Four
Hmm.
members, and then one of
Yeah.
them is an ancestor of I think Jupiter, which is the Team
One of the
Galactic
evil peoples. Yeah.
admin with the Toxicroak or the Stunky,
Yeah.
one of the two. The haircutting girl from the Diamond Clan, she's another Team admin ancestor. Was her name Cyril? The head of the like the second in command of the Galactic team.
I couldn't tell you.
The girl you go to level up. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
She's an ancestor of Cyrus, the main guy that's on the top floor. I don't remember
I
his
didn't
name.
like her though, but I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah, I think it's Silene.
Or I couldn't say it even if I knew it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the main guy that's in charge of the whole Team Galaxy research team is the ancestor Professor Rowan from Sinnoh. So
Oh, I could see that one.
every single character, as far as I know, is an ancestor. The only ones that I couldn't point to specifically are um, Adaman and Iridessa and the long-haired jerk that you meet in the electrode area.
Oh, that guy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the jerk. And then there's Ingo,
Yeah.
who's not an ancestor because he's literally just like you and has been sent back in time, and it's really sad. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
there's been so much sad fan art created by it, like him walking through like blizzards in the Hisui region, like
Yeah.
why do I feel sad because he doesn't remember he has a brother, and then it cuts back to like current time and his brother's just like at a funeral for him or something, and it's just like, oh my gosh, why is
Oh,
this
that's
happening? Yeah,
terrible.
I know, it's terrible. But the game's good, the game's fun. The story's tries to take itself seriously, but it's another Pokemon story. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah. Um, and my other question was,
Oh yeah.
if you can recall, how many shiny Pokemon did you end up with at the end? Or what
So
have you gotten so far, if you can remember the number?
I just in my normal course of play, which is before the updates that kind of made it a little bit easier to get them, and I didn't really do the outbreaks
Hmm.
before that. Um,
Yeah.
I ran into three. One was the Ponyta that teaches you what shiny Pokemon are, so everyone can run into that one.
Hmm.
One was a Snorunt, which is one of my favorite Pokemon, and
Hey, I
it
got
looked
that one too.
amazing. And then I evolved it into a Glalie, and I was like, oh, shiny Glalie is not very good. But I couldn't take it back. And then
Right.
I caught a shiny Golbat, which is really funny because I've only ever caught three shiny Pokemon outside of this game, and one of those
You got
three
three
is a
in this
shiny
one.
Zubat. And so it's like, well,
Hey, you only need one more for the full
the full
line.
family.
Yeah. Hey, you're working on your shiny decks
Yeah,
too,
there
huh?
we go. It's just gonna be just the bats, and so I need to get one more Zubat, and then I need to get Woobat and Swoobat, and then Noivern doesn't count, so I'm done. That's the ends.
Yeah.
John, I can't get over how cute your cat is. Oh my gosh.
If it helps, it's like dug its nails into my neck like twice, but I've just
Oh yeah,
laughed it off.
you've grimaced a little bit, but All right. Is there anything else you want to say about Legends Arceus?
Um, Play it. It's fun.
Yeah, it really is good. Especially, I mean, if you have a Switch, there's some stuff coming out soon, but nothing really coming out. I mean, Switch Sports comes out soon if you're into that, and then Mario Strikers comes out in June, I think, and then everything else is July. So you got some time if you want to pick up Pokemon now. If you haven't done that yet, somehow go do that. It's a good time. Um, Unfortunately, we're gonna have to say goodbye to Skiddo over there. John and I are gonna take a little break, but when we get back, we're gonna be talking about Stranger Paradise, and oh
See,
boy, do we have
say
some
bye.
thoughts about Stranger Paradise. Oh my
Meow.
goodness. Welcome back, John. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about Stranger of
Stranger of
Paradise
Paradise.
Final Fantasy Origin, the most just natural, rolls off your tongue name that's ever been conceived. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'm going to provide some background info and then let you talk first. Um,
Absolutely.
so this is a game by the Neo developers, which is a Souls-like. It's a reimagining of Final Fantasy One, which I played last summer or maybe last fall, and really enjoyed. I just played with a walkthrough, played the whole game. It's like 40 hours long, and it was just NES majesty. So I was really excited when I heard that they were going to be making this, and I love Dark Souls, and Neo wasn't quite my cup of tea when I tried it, but I had high hopes for this. Before I say anything else, John, what do you think about Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin?
All right, so I'm just gonna hit on a few things you just said. I love Neo too. I haven't played very much of it, but I loved it. Um, anyway, I did not realize this was a remake or a reimagining of the first Final Fantasy.
Until like just now?
But until just now.
Okay.
But I did know whenever I started this game, whenever I started talking about the four Warriors of Light, I was like, hey, that reminds me of Final Fantasy One.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, that was the same thing they did. I was like, I wonder if this is a theme through maybe a few of the games. But apparently not. No, this is a reimagining of number one. So
I
that
mean,
makes perfect sense.
getting like elemental crystals is like a big thing with Final Fantasy and fantasy in general. Um,
Yeah.
but like, there's the one scene where the four main characters are leaving the like this town with the castle, and they turn back and look at the castle, and that's quite literally verbatim, just like basically just updated graphics of a shot from the original Final Fantasy. That's like really cool of them
Hmm.
like looking at the castle in the distance. But let me tell you,
Yeah.
John,
Go ahead.
this is nothing like that game. That
No, no,
game
it's
that
not.
is high fantasy. A lot of modern Final Fantasy is it's kind of this weird blend of like futuristic and fantasy elements, like things
Yeah,
like
I
Final
noticed
Fantasy
that.
7 with Midgar. Final Fantasy 10, you know, there's sports arenas that are a big part of it. I haven't played a ton of 13, but I know that it takes place in huge cities that are very like technologically advanced. And then 15, you're literally on a road trip in like a sports car. So, you know, the Final Fantasy series is not a stranger to these more, I don't know, like futuristic elements in a fantasy setting. But the very first Final Fantasy was very strict, like high fantasy with elves
Yeah.
and mages and dwarves and giants and that kind of thing. And the
This is not.
the game starts, and well, but see, it is, but it's not, because
That's what I actually wanted to bring up.
the game starts, and I'm sorry if I'm just I was gonna let you talk, but I changed my mind. You're in this fantasy setting. All the
Castle.
townspeople are dressed like fantasy medieval people, and then the main character is wearing just like an untucked, like half button down with like scruffy jeans, and then the other two main characters come up behind him and like a
They
white
look so out
undershirt,
of place.
a tied around flannel with like kicks, and then the other dude is wearing like basically this shirt if it was solid black, and they like stretched the collar really bad, and he's wearing like washed out jeans and like Converse, and I'm just
How
so
to spot the
distracted
main
immediately.
protagonist.
Do it.
How to spot the main protagonist.
But like it's not usually it's like they're over designed, but in this case it's like they're under designed. They're just wearing like modern street clothes.
Yeah, I would like to point out that everyone else is wearing nice, like, villagey, castle-y,
Uh-huh.
medieval
Yeah.
wear. And then whenever it cuts to like the main character, one of them has like a zipper like under their neck. And like when I looked at it, I could not look at it because they have like a zipper, and then everyone else is using like buttons and
Yeah.
they're on like fluffy clothes. And I'm just like, why doesn't anyone else want a zipper instead of all these annoying buttons?
it's so tonally weird. Just like visually because of that. But then also I I can't believe that this okay, we need to clarify. All of our impressions are based on having played the
The
demo
demo.
that came out on PS5, and that's all we played. So if you're typing in your angry comments, it's like, well, in the final boss, they reveal that they're from the future. Okay, that I buy it. That probably happened.
But if you're going to tell us that, of course, like and subscribe first.
Okay, John, you already did that in this video. I guess that happens later and when I edit it, but whatever. Um, so maybe we'll eat our words and whatever. But like up front, it's very unsettling and it doesn't feel cohesive. And then the main character. What do you think of Jack?
Jack, he's very stoic, and I don't know. He seems to have lost his memory because the one guy brings up and he's like, "Oh, Jack's back."
But
And
you know why they lost their memory, right?
was it mentioned? No.
To quote Neon, the girl you meet, it's
Oh,
um it's the price of their strength.
oh, I heard that, but I didn't realize
It
that
didn't
that
fire any
was.
brain cells because it didn't make enough sense to fire any brain
Oh,
cells.
and then one of the guys, one of the two that aren't the main guy, he says he brings it up. He says, that's all right or whatever, and I was just like,
Yeah, he's like,
I don't think that's okay.
yeah, and then Jack's like, it's a mercy to forget. And then it cuts back to Neon, and Neon's like, but who made us forget? And then it literally there's like a 4 second pause, and then
Anyway,
and then Jack no, and then Jack just goes, I forgot, and then it just fades out, and that's the whole scene. That's literally the whole scene. This game is a comedy, and I can't
it
imagine.
definitely is a comedy.
I can't imagine that the developers didn't mean for this to happen. Like I'm not
I
trying
feel
to
like they
insult
knew what
them.
they were doing.
Clearly they know how to make good games. I didn't care for Neo, but clearly it's a good game. The, I don't
So
know that they went into this with complete just earnest intentions, but I just can't imagine that anybody was like, yeah, this is cool. I can't.
I do gotta say,
Okay.
I agree with you. I think this is a comedy. A little bit during the dialogue, I thought it was a comedy, but the beginning part, the intro scene, I can tell you, I got goosebumps watching that. All the soldiers running through the hallway,
Yeah,
the rain's coming down. I was like, "Oh my God, this is
it
amazing!"
looked
And
amazing.
they got their shields and their lances out, and they all just stand up in formation against the big guy stealing.
The
Who was that? A
princess.
princess, I guess. And just that whole fight scene, I was like, I was getting so hyped. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cool! Can't wait to see the characters." And then they're like modern stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, you're losing me a little bit, but
Yeah,
I'm still in it."
the CGI cutscenes look so good, and then you
They're amazing.
go to just like the in-engine cutscenes, and it's just like, did this really come out a month after Horizon Forbidden West? Like, really? Is that what happened? Because everyone just looks really stiff. It reminds me of Sonic '06 because there's the opening town is like just this like very white, sterile metropolis.
Hmm.
And the way you talk to NPCs in this game is you don't explore a town and talk to them. You go to the world map and they're like, hey, there's people to talk to. And you just like scroll to a menu that has a location and you click on the town and then there's just a series of names, and then there's a loading screen that takes you to that NPC who's standing in front of the fountain, and they say like one sentence, and then it takes you back to the world map, and you select somebody else, and you click on them. They're standing in front of the same fountain. Every single person in the first town is standing in front of the fountain. Like
Yeah,
10
I think
conversations.
I did one of those, and then I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Some of them say the same thing. Like you can talk to like a veteran guard, a rookie guard, and or whatever, and they're all just like blessings of the 10 upon you. They don't say blessings of the 10. That's from something else. But it's just like they say the exact same thing. Like, may our God have mercy on you on your journey, and it's literally the exact same voice line. I'm just like, why is this here? Like,
Yeah,
the presentation's so weird, and
yeah,
we'll talk about the mechanics of it eventually. I just
we're getting there.
last night I couldn't bring myself to finish the demo. You told me I got to like right before the end of it, so I don't feel too bad about not finishing it.
Yeah, I ended up
But
spending 3.5 hours
it was a pretty
playing.
long demo, which is
Yeah, I was
generous.
very
More
surprised.
games should do that. It's nice because I don't know. I thought about trying it. I guess this more games shouldn't do this because I thought about buying it and then I played the demo and I'm like, nah. So I guess maybe this is a bad example, but like I wanted to rewatch the cutscenes in the
Yeah.
demo. So I like watched a YouTube video with my wife last night, and we're both just like mouth agape the whole time, just like what is happening. Um, and there's some really funny stuff. Like there's one part, my favorite part
I
is
swear this is a comedy.
it's
Go ahead.
got to be. So you know the scene where he's walking through like the field
Hmm.
at like sunset, and it's like
The intro.
yeah, it's like right before they teach you how to play. Um, well, you know how the song that's playing. Are you familiar with it? It was
No.
Frank. It was Frank Sinatra's "My Way," and I'm not gonna try to sing it because I don't remember how it goes. But the gist of it is he's listing how challenging his life has been, but that he's been successful at it. And then literally it's called "My Way," and the hook of the
Hmm.
whole song is saying, not only did I do all of that, but I did it my way. And
Right.
this he's walking through the forest, it's playing the whole verse, and then it goes, more than that, I did it my, and then the
And
cutscene fades
cuts
out and
off.
ends. They don't even use the chorus, like the whole chorus in the name of the song. Like that had to be on purpose. I
Probably. Yeah.
refuse to believe that someone edited that, reviewed it, and shipped it. You know what I
We don't
mean?
have to pay for the full copyright.
Oh my gosh, it drives. That was baffling to me. I was like, did that? I literally was like, I like kind of like patted my face when that happened. It was like early in the morning.
Am I awake?
Yeah, I was like, did I just like have a stroke? Like, what just happened? But then the game just kept doing things like that over and over again. And John, please cut me off if I'm just going too
Nah,
hot
it's
on
fine.
this.
Go for it.
There's I ended up watching a little bit past the demo cutscenes just because I wasn't sure where the cutoff was. And there's
Right.
one really there's two really funny scenes where you call Jack stoic. I'm gonna call Jack angry and single minded. All he cares about is killing chaos.
Well, yeah.
There's a scene in the demo where a character is like, there is no chaos. It's just been me facading as chaos the whole time. And then Jack's like, that's bull. And it's like, oh, but she's right here. You just saw her do that. And then later on, minor spoiler, John, do you care?
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
You
Well,
just want me to take these off?
no, you're good. I won't be specific. There's you meet a character who's like, allow me to explain the lore of this fantasy thing that's happening, and then Jax like cuts him off literally 3 words in. It's like, I don't care. Tell me about chaos. And I'm just like, okay, we're just not gonna get exposition about anything in this game. Got it.
That actually comes up whenever you do the pirate captain Beaky too.
Yeah.
Uh, he he comes out. The captain comes out talking about something, and then he's like, "Tell me about chaos."
Yeah.
And the captain's like, "Oh, right to the point. I see."
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happens in this. And then another scene that happens later in the game, there's like this big scary boss, and he's like, this isn't an exact quote. He's like, He's like, I will destroy the world because I am the Reaper of the Souls. My name is. And then it just fast cuts to Jack, who's like full out sprinting, even though they were standing like 10 feet apart just a second ago. And he jumps in the air, like with his fist raising up. And he's just like, I'm going to not say the F word. But he's like, I don't give a who you are. And just like punches this boss in the face. And I'm just like, what is happening?
You're not chaos.
Exactly. He's like, I don't care. You're just another, just like
You're just a
block.
pawn in the
Like,
way.
yeah, I need to get you out of the way. And I'm like, I keep leaning into the microphone and yelling. I'm so sorry if the audio is just horrible right now. All right, I'm taking a deep breath. I need to calm down.
All right. So, do you want to transition into combat or anything?
Please, John,
Exploration, maybe?
as someone who enjoyed what they played of Neo, talk to me about what you think about the combat.
I thought the combat was really good. At times, it feels like a beat 'em up. And I say beat 'em up as in you were just hammering away at enemies and then you just explode. It really reminded me of the combat in God of War, actually. Because if you use your fists in God of War and you punch a lot, it fills up this bar and then it gives you an option to press a button and then Kratos will rip the enemy apart or destroy them in some manner of fashion. And you can do the same exact thing in this game. And I was loving it. I actually made sure to do that special animation for every single enemy so I could
Yeah,
see what it looked like. Um,
it's pretty crazy.
but yeah, so you
I like
transition
that.
from, and
Go
then you
ahead.
transition from that into attack sponge bosses that have set marks where they do animations, and it shows you where those are going to be, so you're ready for them, I guess. But I'm kind of iffy on that. I can't figure out if I like that just yet. But they are Dark Souls-esque, and they do require a lot of damage and a lot of tactics in order to not die in those battles. Were a lot of work. Some of them took me a few tries actually. So,
Yeah, the boss fights feel kind of like a mix between Dark Souls and like a platinum boss fight, like a Bayonetta or Astral Chain. I don't know if Devil May Cry is that platinum. I don't know, but it's like flashier health sponge kind of bosses.
yeah.
But it does have like the pattern recognition that comes with a Dark Souls boss, and it feels less button mashy than a platinum boss typically does.
Hmm.
I enjoyed the boss fights for the most part. I think I like where it shows you where the cutscenes can happen because a lot of times bosses will have those stopping points that no
And
matter.
they're very disruptive.
Well, it's like if it happens at half health, but you don't know it's gonna happen, and you just happen to like charge up a really strong attack that like consumes a resource, and you use
Hmm.
it, and then it only does a fraction of the damage because their health won't
Because
go
it has to
lower in
stop.
that point until the cutscene happens.
Yeah.
I always find that very frustrating, and so I kind of appreciate that they give you that kind of signal.
Yeah.
Um,
And then something I didn't mention is, as well as making your way, it's a very linear game whenever you do the missions. So the missions have a set path that you can take. Sometimes there's veering paths, but you can always go back to the main path. And what stops you sometimes is there's these, I'm going to call them rifts because I can't remember the actual name, but they allow enemies to come through them and you have to destroy them to stop the enemies from spawning and to
yeah,
get to the next area. That was something I didn't mention, but I kind of like that mechanic now that I know how to deal with it on a in a you know a good way, I
hmm
guess.
I remember going through like the tutorial and stuff. I enjoy the like the counter system because there are you can't counter every attack, but certain
Hmm.
attacks that appear with like a purple icon, you can essentially absorb the attack and then reflect it back at the enemy. And I think that's a cool mechanic because it tests your reflexes without just making. It's not like Sekiro where you have to parry everything perfectly. It's just occasionally there's a pretty good signal and you're like, bam, got it. And there's some enemies like the bomb where they shoot a fireball at you and you can reflect it, shoot it back, and that's essentially a one hit kill because it sets them off and makes them explode.
Hmm.
Um, which there's like a hallway full of like 8 of those, and so that was really the best tactic to handle those.
Actually,
Um,
you could go around. Did you not go around?
no, I like hammered my way through.
One of the two guys, I can't remember their names.
Jed and
But
Ash.
yeah, I think it's Jed. He mentions he's like, "There's too many in this hallway. We need to go around." And then there's a whole side path that leads you around them. So
Well, you see, I was too busy being on my way to destroy chaos. I had my headphones in. Did you notice there was one cutscene where there's like extremely important story content happening? It's like when they meet Neon and she's like talking
Hmm.
about stuff, and Jack literally just walks away from the conversation, and he like has earbuds in and pulls out his phone and starts playing music, and you like hear the music while the loading screen happens, and then
I
it
really don't remember that one.
and then it loads, and he stops the music and takes his headphones out, and then they continue the conversation.
I really don't remember
It's
that one. That's hilarious.
wild. Anyway, the combat, it's kind of a mixed bag for me because it feels similar to Neo, and the problem I had with Neo is that it is actively trying to be similar to Dark Souls. I'm not saying it's not its own thing, but it is trying to be similar to Dark Souls. And with Dark Souls, there's such a weight behind the combat. There's no game, in my opinion, that has combat that feels as intentional and involved as Dark Souls does. There are other games like Horizon that do really cool things where you're shooting off specific parts, and like trying to make tactical decisions in battle. And God of War has some really interesting ways to like chain up combos and use different abilities on different types of enemies. Like all that stuff is good, but as far as just the basic, I'm pressing the button, committing to this attack animation, and responding to the enemy based on what they're doing. Nobody does it as well as FromSoft, and
Hmm.
that includes these guys. A lot of times, I just, maybe it's just me being bad at it. But I just can't. I feel like the attacks aren't choreographed in a way that make them reactable. Like the enemy attacks are choreographed in such a way that I can respond to them, and it ends up feeling like with most of the minor enemies, it's like I just need to have a weapon that will stun them until I can just beat them to death.
I agree
And
with that. Most of what you said, I agree.
yeah, and in Dark Souls, the minor enemies, eh, typically if you're using like a standard sword, like 3 hits max. If you're like
Hmm.
appropriately leveled,
Not these.
these take like some of them are over a dozen hits just, and these are like rats, and it's like I don't want to just mash attack 12 times to kill this one enemy. Like, that's not satisfying to me. They have so much health, or the attacks do so little damage. It's really cool that you can get so many different weapons and like change classes on the fly to use like great swords, dual blades, spears. I really liked I don't know how to say it, like the pugilist, the brawler essentially.
Pug- Pugilist is what
Maybe
I called it,
I
like the
gotcha.
dog.
I
Pugilist.
I I think there's interesting stuff there, but just like the general feel of the combat, I just wasn't about. Were you enjoying the basics of the combat?
Yeah, I actually was. Yeah.
Okay.
I was really enjoying it. It had combat very similar to Final Fantasy VII, but in a completely different way, I guess.
You mean like the
Um,
remake?
yes, the remake. Yeah, the remake. Where sometimes the enemies felt like they were sponges to your attacks, but if you set up your combos enough, you'll in this game's case, you will fill up that bar and then you can just break it in half like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time or turn it into crystals. So overall, I did enjoy the combat from the demo, and the bosses gave me some trouble a little bit, but they were a challenge that I did make my way through, luckily.
Yeah,
Um,
I really
so
enjoyed the Garland boss fight. That was a cool
yeah,
thing that happened.
the my favorite little enemy that shows up, I don't know how familiar you are with Final Fantasy games, but the Tonberry, did you see the one Tonberry that was in all the
No, I
missions?
didn't
There's
run
only
into.
one.
I didn't run it. I ran
So
into a cactuar, but I didn't run into a tonberry.
a Tonberry, there was only one. It was in like the castle-esque area that has
Uh,
like a dining room. It was in one of those side areas, and um, whenever you do the little circle attack to kill it, like and turn it into crystals, he puts his hand on its forehead and then just squeezes a little, and it just shatters into crystals. And I was
oh.
just like, "Oh,
So so to clarify, in case you was like, what are they talking about? It's not explained as far as I'm aware. But your character has an ability where basically every enemy has a health bar and like a stamina bar, and you kill the enemy just outright if you deplete their health. But if you deplete their stamina completely, they'll get staggered. And if you go up to them and press circle, the
A
protagonist
finishing
like
move.
yeah does a finishing move where he grabs them and turns them into crystals and then shatters them. And is that explains why he can do that?
No, but the night at the beginning intro video did it, so why not?
Um, yeah, I
The
guess
real
so.
question is, can the other protagonists do it? That's a question.
The real question is, do the other protagonists do anything? Because
Yeah,
I
because I
never
don't
felt
really
like
think they do. Yeah.
there were times where I was low on health and I was out of heals in the boss fight that I was just like dodging and like being as far away from the boss, and the two of them were just like stuck to him like, and it's like barely doing any damage. And I'm like, what are
It's
we
like a
doing here,
summon in
boys?
Elden Ring, like one of the new summons it gives you in Elden
Mm-hmm.
Ring, where it's like it's just there to annoy them.
Hey, sometimes that helps in Elden Ring. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Um, One thing I was gonna say, I want to speculate for the end of this game at the end of this. So,
Okay,
just- do you want me to
I'm
do it
just
now?
gonna I yeah go ahead. But first, let me say that
Yeah.
I know the story of the original Final Fantasy that
Hmm.
this is based on, and they've taken a ton of creative liberties so far. But I think I can kind of predict basically what they're going for. So I'm gonna do my best to remain completely neutral in my expression. So don't take that as any kind of hint.
Okay. So, my speculations are that what's the main character's name? Jack.
Jack.
Jack, like with the
There's
E.
Jack, Jed, Ash, and
Jack.
Neon.
Okay, but the main guy, Jack.
Yeah,
Okay, so my prediction is just based on everything that's going on. He is so determined to find chaos. My guess is he's going to be chaos the whole time because he can do the same crystal attack that the knight could do in the beginning, and he's the one that did it in the first place. But because they keep mentioning they've lost their memory, he doesn't know that he's chaos. So he's his this whole story is actually him trying to find himself.
and are you interested in playing the game to find out?
I am going to probably get this game here in the future and play it. I'm currently started Elden Ring, which we'll bring up
Yeah,
later in this video, but so I'm trying to get that done and doing that first. So it'll be a while before I get to this, but yeah,
yeah,
I after playing this demo, I've enjoyed it. I'm gonna buy it and keep playing it.
gotcha. Oh, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I'm just baffled by this game. I'm just genuinely baffled. I've never been this perplexed by a product like this before. I think there's definitely some really cool mechanical stuff going on. Um,
Hmm.
but man, I could just if this was in a theater and I could buy popcorn and just watch it happen in front of me, I would. Like I think that's how I would want to consume this.
I have an
Um,
idea. You could just do a Let's Play series about it, and then you could just watch me play through the whole thing.
I was actually going to discuss that with you off camera, so we wouldn't have to make any commitments live. But no commitment.
I'm not making any commitments,
But
no.
that might
But
be fun. I don't know if the PC port's any good. I've because we played the demo. I played the demo on PS5 at least.
well, I haven't. I'm playing it on PS5, so
Okay.
or the demo anyway. I didn't see it on Steam whenever I checked, so
Oh, is it not? It might be on.
I don't think it's on PC.
Oh,
Not
okay.
yet, anyway.
I have no idea.
But if you know, let us know down in the comment section.
All right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I could lose my mind about the smallest, dumbest thing for hours about this game. I
Yeah.
think I've said my piece generally. Is there anything
Oh,
you
one
wanted to
more
add?
thing.
Yeah, go for it.
I just want to ask you, what was your favorite enemy to fight? Like, it doesn't have to be boss, but what was your favorite enemy to fight?
Hmm. I did like the Garland boss fight. I don't remember what they call him in the game, but they reveal afterwards that it was like it's Garland, the purple knight guy.
Oh, the Chaos Advent is what
Yeah,
that boss
Chaos
fight's called.
Advent. That's it. I'm to become chaos.
Yeah. And
Um,
then Jack's like, good enough for me.
yeah, exactly. He's like, just like the
It's to
synapses
start.
are like this far apart, and there's just like a like barely just a little spark. He's like,
Kill.
oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I have to talk about one more thing.
Go
There's a
ahead.
part where there's a part where the king's like, you should go on this mission, and they're like, fine, we'll go on this mission, and then it fades to black, and then
Mm-hmm.
it fades back in, and there's just this random NPC who does not look nearly as impressive as all the protagonists. He was
Yeah.
like looking past the protagonist, and he's like, hey Jack, why don't you stay at my inn tonight, buddy? And Jack's like,
Yeah.
sure. And
I was so
then
confused by that.
and I was like, oh, that was weird. Maybe that character is important. And then you go and do the mission, and then you
You talk to
come
him again.
back, and he's like, hey Jack, how about you come stay at my inn? And Jack literally goes, mm. And then the guy's like, it's like pauses, cuts back to the guy, and he's like, I was hoping you'd say that. And then it just fades out again. And I'm just like, what are we doing here?
I forgot to bring that up, but the amount of grunts between the
It's
characters was
amazing.
just astounding to me because somebody would say something and you go, "Urgh," and then another one go, "Urgh."
Yeah, they
I was
just
just
grunt
like,
at each other. We
it's like, what is going on? That's
some
why I thought this was a comedy
some
whenever this
people
stuff was happening.
some people online have compared it to Kingdom Hearts, because Kingdom
How?
Hearts dialogue, like especially Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a lot of
Yeah.
like weird
Oh, I haven't played
pauses
that one.
where it's like, hey Sora, do you think we should go do this? Yeah, what if we didn't went and did that? It's like a weird pause, but like this
Yeah.
game, it's the same thing, but instead of actual dialogue, it's just people grunting. Like I literally think the protagonists meet, and they're like, "You have a crystal too," and then all three of them, it's just like it's like a triangle. It's like, hmm.
It's like King of the Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yup, that's all it is. And it's like, oh my gosh.
um, and then there's another scene after you talk to the king, and then his I don't know what the guy that works in his office is.
Yeah, I know what
But
you're talking about, the narrator.
he he's like talk to me and or follow me somewhere, and then you go talk to him. He's like, all right, you just leave the city. I'm just like, what do you mean follow
And
you? You didn't go anywhere.
did you talk to the king after that cutscene started? Or I'm
I
sorry,
didn't
after that
talk to
cutscene
the
ended?
I didn't talk to the king. I talked to the princesses
If
and I think his wife at some point, the
Yeah,
queen.
if you talk to the king, it does this really weird thing because he's like kind of
He
far
also
away.
grunts.
No, he's like kind of far away on his throne, and he like says a couple lines of dialogue, and all of a sudden, I swear, we're back in like 2006 with the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, because it just like pans in on his face like this, and he's like, "You need to blah blah blah." Like it's just Emperor Septum, like
Yeah.
verbatim with the framing and just the text at the bottom of the screen, and I'm just like where are like what is this game took me for a ride, and I only played like a 2.5 hour demo. I'm very interested in seeing you commit to this, John. Um, if this sounds like it'd be fun,
Yeah.
and you're into that kind of combat, like I'm not gonna say don't play it. I'm just saying when I heard the
Play the
rumors
demo.
of
Play the demo.
yeah, play the demo first. I'm just saying when I heard the rumors of a Dark Souls like remake of Final Fantasy 1, I was very excited, and then I saw the product, and it was nothing like I anticipated and hoped.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's objectively bad
See,
because I've been laughing for like 30 minutes talking about it.
I
Like,
think that's the difference between how you and Ryder approach these games, actually. Um, I don't go into this like looking up much about the games. Like, I don't expect anything. Like, whenever I go in, all I knew about this game was Kurt was like, "Hey, there's a demo for this game. It's a Final Fantasy game. You should just play it." And I was like, "All right, sure." I had no
you hadn't seen
expectations
anything
of
about it?
I have not seen a single
Oh
thing
my
about it until
gosh.
I
I
opened it. Same thing with Elden Ring. I have avoided every spoiler out there. So,
I couldn't
and I
imagine
watched no trailers of Elden Ring either.
I couldn't imagine going to this game not knowing what I knew, because I was excited about it, and they showed the first trailer, and it's literally just like flashy. It's just literally just a compilation of all the finishers that Jack does, and then just voice lines of him yelling about chaos. Like I swear, the first trailer they reveal the game, he yells chaos no less than like 15 times, and
I
that's
could see that,
that's
honestly.
literally just the whole thing. And I remember like I was watching whatever a state of play or whatever it revealed on, and I just kind of paused it, and I looked at my wife who was with me, and I was just like, what what did we just like what was that? I don't know, it was crazy, but hey,
Well, Yeah,
maybe
I didn't know anything about it, so
maybe this
so I
will
mean that's why I enjoyed it.
maybe this will be your game of the year. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Maybe, yeah.
All right. Well, next we're gonna be talking about Elden Ring, and I'm gonna do a little transition because Ryder's gonna be joining us for that. Ryder Red, Dark Souls fan, number one. Bloodborne fan, I don't know, probably number one. Would you like Bloodborne or Dark Souls better?
Necessary, so I'm going to go into it because it makes sense because we're talking about Elden Ring's natural progression. So I first had Dark Souls introduced to me in high school by a mutual friend of mine and Kurt's. Um, he came to school just like going on and on and on about this game, and I'd heard of it before. I'd seen screenshots of it and heard that it was a extremely difficult game, almost too difficult is the way I heard it described. It came out the same year as Skyrim, 2011. And at the time, if I had to choose between do I pay for this game that's extremely hard, that just it looks kind of dumpy, or do I pay for beautiful Skyrim that is completely open world? I can do whatever I want, make it as hard as I want or as easy as I want. Like, okay, Skyrim's the obvious answer. Fast forward about a year and a half or so, and I meet this mutual friend of ours, and he's just going on and on and on about this game that he's just discovered called Dark Souls and how great it is. And it went on sale for like $5 on the Xbox Live marketplace. And I was like, all right, fine, fine, fine. I'll buy the game. Shut up. I bought the game, and honestly, it's kind of like a new awakening for me in video games. Like, it exposed me to this just completely new idea of how video games could be. The fact that the game is kind of linear, but also not really. The paths wrapping around themselves. The fact that a game could be so difficult, almost rage-inducing, but also at the same time feel really, really fair, and just give you this, to quote EA, a sense of accomplishment. Um, I don't know. It blew my mind, and uh, started Bloodborne actually after I finished Dark Souls. It was the first game I got for my PS4. I got it and
Good
started playing
choice.
Bloodborne. Stopped like halfway through. Ended up coming back to it and finishing it. Then did Dark Souls 2 because Dark Souls 3 was on the way. Then did Dark Souls 3. Long story short, for a little while, every one of them has been my favorite, with the exception of Dark Souls 2. Currently, I would say Bloodborne is my favorite just
Okay.
because it feels so different from the others, and like the trick weapons are such a cool concept for a game to only have like 13 weapons in it. They all feel so unique. Um, so yeah, that's my experience with Dark Souls. And so when Sekiro was announced, I was excited. Never finish it. Bought it day one. Never finished it because it was senior year. It released in like April or something like that. Too close to the end of the year. Life was a little crazy, and Elden Ring was announced shortly thereafter, and I was just going so crazy because George R. R. Martin was involved with it. And at that time, I was still a fan of his. I don't know if I can still say the same. I respect him as an author, as a creator, but I want him to write. But anyways, I'm done now. Elden Ring's out. It's cool. And we'll
Yeah.
talk about that more in a bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
hog that,
it's. I'll be
but
honest. I genuinely expected you to either say Dark Souls or Bloodborne, but now we kind of have a status. To give a brief overview, I've played all the Souls games, including Sekiro and Bloodborne, except for Demon Souls. I was
I
thinking about,
forget.
yeah, I was thinking about buying Demon Souls, but then it's like, well, Elden Ring comes out. I got my
It's on sale
PS5.
right now.
Yeah, I got my PS5 for Christmas, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for Elden Ring. I love all of those games. They're all amazing, including Dark Souls 2. And then John, have you played all of them as well?
I've finished Dark Souls 3 at least 8 times at this point. Dark Souls 1, I haven't finished yet. Dark Souls 2, haven't finished. And then Elden Ring, currently in progress. Never
Gotcha.
played Bloodborne. And
You
then
should. It's
haven't
very
played
good.
Demon Souls yet.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're all pretty versed in Dark Souls, where we would I would say safe to say we're all like really big fans of the Souls and Souls like games
Oh, and the board game.
and the board game. The board game
Board
is
game's
very
good
good.
too.
Um, Elden Ring is essentially Dark Souls 4 of the wild. Like
And it
I was gonna make this joke.
It's
I was gonna make this joke.
Did this happen in Tomba too, or did this happen like the last time we recorded, where I said something and then you got mad because
Yeah.
you wanted to make that joke?
Yeah.
It's literally like mechanically, like the combat and the item systems and stuff. I mean, they're more nuanced and they're evolved, but it literally just it feels like Dark Souls 4. It doesn't feel as different as I thought it might when they first revealed it. Um,
just
and-
like you went to CVS and you had to get the generic because you couldn't afford the regular one.
I don't know. It still feels like genuine Dark Souls, you know?
For the naming of everything, because I keep calling them
I see.
souls, the runes, and
So it's
you
the
know
same
what
product,
was
but it's just got a different label.
Side of Grace,
I
Bonfire,
gotcha. Yeah, doesn't quite roll off the tongue as
Tier.
much.
Yeah,
So
we've been
mechanically,
calling
like
them Grace sites. So
mechanically, like
'cause that-
moment
that's
to
better.
moment, it feels the same as Dark Souls to me at least. But then the difference is that the world is completely open, and you know I don't mean to use two cliches and be like it's like Dark Souls and it's like Breath of the Wild, but like it literally, like there are few games that I can say have clearly been inspired by Breath of the Wild, and I think this is one of those instances where they just drop you into this world, you complete a small tutorial, and then it's like, all right, go. If you run to the wrong, like if you go too far into this scary place and get yourself killed, like that's on you. Maybe try somewhere else for now, but everything's available to you at this moment as long as you're willing to explore. How does that combination of Dark Souls combat and new age exploration work for you, Ryder?
I'm glad you started with me because I
Yeah.
actually wanted to just to this point. So when I first started playing the Souls games, I started again with Dark Souls 1, and I remember, playing through the Undead Asylum and thinking, okay, this is kind of cool. And then, I'm sure if you haven't played Dark Souls, go play it. Most people, I'm sure, are familiar with it at this point. A lot of people have been exposed to this series. I'm willing to bet primarily because of Dark Souls 3. It was the best-selling game in this franchise. It was from software, period, until Elden Ring. It's kind of popularized this series even more than it already was. But anyways, after you finish the Undead Asylum, you're dropped off by this crow at Firelink Shrine, and there's a very obvious path for you to take because you will not be murdered over and over and over again. But when I first started the game, I wasn't even aware that there was an easy path to take. I just thought this game immediately went to like 100. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm doing. Because there are three different paths you can take from Firelink, and you can go any one of them, and technically you can complete those areas, at least a large portion of them. Um, and I just was completely unaware of that. But when I realized that there was an easier path, it blew my mind, and I was like, "This is awesome!" Like the fact that this game didn't tell me, like, yeah, we have creepy dudes like, "You should go ring the bells of awakening," and I was like, "I don't know where that's at. I'm just gonna do this." But that was so cool to me at the time, and this is like, in a few years later, I guess, what, 5 years later, something like that, Breath of the Wild comes out. And when you first step out onto the cliffside and you're hearing like the Breath of the Wild, the piano music
That's
playing
exactly
and the
how it
wind's
goes.
blowing,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like I can just do whatever I want now. And again, you have the tutorial area and then do what you want. That was so cool. And the verticality to the map, just being able to climb anything, having the glider, just gave it this explorability that I'd never had in a game before. Even again, something like at the time I played way more games, but Skyrim was my first like real huge open world game, and Breath of the Wild just kind of like pushed the bar. And years later, here I am playing Elden Ring, and before I even touched it, I unfortunately had early reviewers and people that played the game one day before me just being like, Dark Souls, Breath of the Wild, Dark Souls, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And I went into it like knowing that and understanding that like, okay, well, it's open world, but didn't realize the amount of freedom you have. And it is difficult, and I'm willing to say that some of these bosses are way more difficult than any Dark Souls boss.
Absolutely, yeah.
As far as like, I mean, just going through what John has currently done, because I don't want to spoil, future stuff, but just Margit, his he is so aggressive, and his tracking is so good, and it's frustrating, but it's realistic. Where you're like rolling because he's like about to hit you, and then as soon as he's coming down, he goes "You," and hits you and kills you, and you're like, I rolled. I rolled. But it doesn't matter because it's a little more realistic and it's frustrating because they do turn and they vary their attacks just like
Hmm.
on a whim, and it's so cool. But my point to this is that I have gotten frustrated, but I've never wanted to just rage quit like I have with previous games because I have a full world to explore. And the open world, there are some areas where there's an enemy here or there who's just a little bit harder. Like your average, just run of the mill grunt is a little bit harder than in some areas, but for the
Hmm.
most part, they're really, really easy to kill. When I started, I was a little annoyed because I was like, man, I'm killing these guys way too easily. They give me like, almost no experience. And I can't even remember. I was gonna call it souls. It's not souls. Is it
It's
lost
runes.
grace?
Runes.
Runes? Yeah, runes. You're right. Yeah. So they give 62 runes. They give 40 runes. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's going to take me years. But the thing is, the map is so big. There's so many bosses and these legacy ruins and everything, or legacy dungeons and whatnot, that I've never felt the need to grind or anything like that. Because if something's too hard, I just keep on running. And I don't want to dig too deep into mechanics and whatnot, because I'll just gush and gush and gush. So
No,
I'll stop now. But
yeah, you're good. I want to speak on that, and John, I want to hear your thoughts about the open world too. But speaking of Margit, so Margit is really the first boss once you get out of the tutorial area that they just like it is completely open, but there's very
They
clearly
usher
like
you
a
toward it.
golden path where they're like, hey, if you follow the road, then you'll end up doing what the story wants you to do. And so, I followed that road, veering off every once in a while, but always coming back to the safety of the road. Mostly because I had a map for that area, and it was scary exploring areas without a map. And I get to Margit, and I run up and I like hit him with my claymore, and I do like 1/70th of his life bar, and I'm like, I'm not
I
ready
have
for
messed up.
this. And I'm like, this is gonna be a really hard boss fight. Then I'm just this is like because I'd heard like rumblings from people on like other podcasts and things like that. Like Margit is the wall in Elden Ring. Like he's gonna keep a lot of players from moving forward. And so I was like, I gotta prepare for this. And so I left. I explored all over creation, did everything that I found to do, even went to some areas that I knew I should not be in, and I like killed some bosses that were really hard. And then I was like, I'm out of things to do. I guess I'll go fight Margit. And then I go back and I hit him and I take like an eighth of his life bar, and I'm like, and
Wow, you
that's
were definitely over leveled, huh?
yeah, and that's why like that's when it clicked for me. I mean, it still took me a few tries, but I felt like I had been knocked down, and they were like, go away. And so I left, and then I came back strong enough to like overcome this challenge, and I did. And that was a very rewarding feeling because like Ryder said, in the older Souls games, like you hit a wall and it's a boss, and you can go back and grind in the area you've already been in. But sometimes there's optional areas that you might have missed that you could find, but typically there's not new enemies and new content to
Right.
consume. You just have to kill the same soldiers over and over again.
I had
And
that
so
problem
that
in
was
Dark Souls
really
2.
cool. Do it.
I had that problem in Dark Souls 2 when you fight the three
two or as well.
Dark Souls 2, the
Two.
game.
Okay, yeah.
The three enemies that you have to fight at once
Oh
that
yeah, the
are a
worst boss
boss.
in the Souls series.
Yeah.
The Sentinels or whatever.
Yeah,
Yes. So I actually learned on that boss that enemies stop spawning after you've killed them 30 times because it
yeah.
took
Hmm.
me over that many tries to get there and beat it. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, that was it. It was just
Okay.
It's crazy that all of us knew just what you were talking about
we were like,
immediately.
yeah, yeah.
We can keep going, but it's crazy because you said that, and all of us were like, "Yes,
It
yeah, I know which one."
genuinely like maybe the only Souls boss that I could be like, oh, that's not a good boss. Like
There's a
not great.
couple more from Dark Souls too, but that
Actually,
one's the worst.
That's the
so
one.
after I beat that boss, that's when I took my break from Dark Souls 2, and I have not picked it back up since.
It's so good. It's worth it. You got
But
to
I
do
beat
it.
it because I got mad and frustrated, and I was like, I have to beat this. And then I did, and I was like, all right, I'm done for a while.
Have you encountered that in Elden Ring?
No, not at all. I can tell you how long it took me to beat Margit. It took me a little over 2 hours. I was level 24 during the fight.
It took me
And
about 2 hours.
Yeah.
I actually have the video if you want it for this
Yeah,
of me
send that
beating
to
it.
me. I want
Also have a plethora of video of me dying to
I
it if you want that too.
I want to hear you finish. I'm pretty sure I was around level 40 and was about like 8 or 10 hours in somewhere in there. Like I
Wow.
explored a ton. I explored 3 or 4 areas of like the broader map like pretty thoroughly.
Um, so I'm playing this at the same time as my cousin. We both playing together. We get on and both play. We made an agreement. We're not helping each other with the bosses,
Mhm.
but we are going to do some exploring together and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Um, and I showed him that video clip of me beating the boss last night, and he said, "Why is your health bar so low?" I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "What is your health?" I was like, "Well, mine is 440. What is yours?" He's like, "Mine's over 600." I was like, "Well, that
Yeah,
could have
dude,
been
that's
my
super
problem."
low. Yeah, wow. I think
So,
mine at that point when I beat him was already at like 700 or
Yeah.
oh
something.
wow.
I just started pumping points to me. I was like, I need health. Like I know for a fact that this is going to come in handy long term. So
I
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say I actually had to look something up. So I didn't realize this while I was going through the fight, but there was a red square with a arrow pointing down near my character in the top left corner of my status bar, and I tried to check my statuses and I had no idea what it was. So, um, but I figured out that that meant 5% of my health was gone. So not only did I only have 440, I also had lost 5%
Why did you
for
lose
over an hour
5%?
worth of trying.
mm,
So you guys have definitely been here, so I'm not gonna spoil anything. So that center area that's equivalent of the Firelink Shrine
Yeah,
the
with
round
the
the
table
round
with the
hole.
big
table.
table. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a lady in there that's like, "Hey, will you give me a hug?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"Sure, why not?" So if you hug her and then don't use the item she gives you, you just get nothing, but you lose 5% of your health
oh
permanently.
gosh.
And the only way to get it back is to use the item she gave you and then die. So I had to
It,
look that up because I knew that that pointing down symbol meant something bad,
yeah.
and I just didn't know what it was. So I had to look that up. But I'm glad I did, or I don't think I would have beat that boss because I didn't live against that boss with that much health at the end. So
Is that NPC related to I've had a symbol on like the left side of my screen for a while. For a while it was like a purple gravestone and now it's turned into like a golden rune ring and I don't know what
I
either of
haven't
those
seen that
mean.
before.
That's a different buffs or debuffs, whichever it is.
Oh, maybe just because of a talisman I have or something. It's like in the Dark
Hmm.
Souls games they'll put them like underneath your like stamina bar. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up, have you guys fought the tree sentinel guy who is right outside the intro area? He's just on a horse with a
Yeah.
big
Hmm.
The
halberd and a
gold guy?
shield.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, did you guys fight him on the horse or did you go on the ground
This was
on
one.
foot?
This is another one of those that like people talk about. Like as soon as you leave the tutorial area, there's a guy in gold on a horse, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go fight him," and then he messes you up. So I just like, I don't know. Like part of me was like didn't want to be spoiled, and I still don't. But also part of me is like, there's literally anytime there's an ambush, I'm never surprised by it because there's 30 messages on the ground that say ambush ahead. You know what I mean?
I actually quit reading the messages on the ground because I don't want to be spoiled on what's coming up.
This is the first time that I've ever played online for a Souls game, and so this is the first time that I'm experiencing it. So I'm just trying it. But anyway, so I just rode past that guy, and then I came back when I got the horse and just tore him up.
I
What about you?
I I, I fought him on torrent. I saw him and was like, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Like, all right, he was too big. He's on a horse. I was like, I have a feeling that he's either going to one shot me or he's going to be so fast I'm not going to be able to even hit him. And I'm just going to skip right around him. And I did. And I came back way later because I was going to talk to the guy who said
Oh
I ain't got
yeah,
no women in my life. And at that point, I was
it's
like,
just an
eh, might as
afterthought,
well try
right?
and fight him. Yeah. Same
So
thing with you go ahead. Go ahead. You want to talk about this? There's another boss
I
that
was
I'm
gonna
thinking
say
about.
I've gotten really good at these beginner area bosses because it never crossed my mind that I should ride this horse and try to fight him. I got him down to uh, maybe 3 hits, like twice, and he killed me. And I was not that I ran out of health items. It was the fact that he just did a lot of damage at once because
Mm.
his moves kept swapping up at the end. Well, then I decided to get on the horse, and I killed him my first try on the horse. And I was just like, why didn't I think of this before? This is probably why this is here. Because
Or it
I don't
kind
know
of
how.
breaks the game.
Yeah, it does, which is why a lot of areas there's like
No
a
horse.
blue glowing
Hmm.
outline, and if you cross it, it's like you can't call the horse. Did you guys explore the South continent at all? There,
Are you
Like
talking about
south of the
like the south of the
talking about
starting area.
yeah.
southeast? That leads to another castle?
Yeah, I'm trying to be vague just in case. Anyway, I'm not gonna say anything else.
I
Anyway,
actually
you
I think I hit the southern coastline
okay?
actually last night.
Well,
So
it doesn't really
I
matter. I don't need to be more specific. You enter like a castle like area, but it's like a courtyard, and so
Yeah.
it's still like outside and it's a big open area. And I'm like, there's a ton of enemies, and I'm like slowly picking them off one by one. And all of a sudden, like one of them notices me, and then everybody notices me, and I'm like, oh crap, time to call my horse and run. And I try to call my horse, and it's like,
Mm-mm.
huh? And then I just get mauled. So yeah, I didn't realize that there were areas. That was when I discovered that they limit your torrent because he's broken.
yeah. I gotta say the AI in this game is just fantastic. Like for the bosses anyway. Because I feel like they do a really good job, Margit being the example, but I
Yeah.
felt like they were doing a really good job of murdering me.
Hmm.
So, have you guys also had any other bosses that were like specifically murdering you?
Yeah, but I don't want to
Yeah.
spoil it.
Okay.
I only had one other
Well,
one so far that's just giving me like
oh, so none of the
fits
beginner
almost.
ones. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-mm. None of the legacy bosses or legacy dungeons.
You're saying legacy dungeons. What do you mean by that?
So that's the I don't know if it's an official name or whatnot, but so legacy dungeons are kind of the name that fans have given them, at least as far as I can remember. That's what they've been called. Legacy dungeons are these like
Little
real
side areas.
short, like one and done bosses. You go in and it's a pretty linear path. Go in, kill a couple of enemies. Maybe there's a
Gotcha.
gimmick or something to it. Open the big
Ex-
door, go
Yeah,
and kill the boss, and leave.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, I like
yeah.
that.
the
That makes
legacy
sense.
dungeons.
Well, what I've been calling them based off the Dark Souls board game is mini bosses. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
um,
All right.
the only reason why I don't call them mini bosses is because they're like mini bosses typically in Souls games are
respawnable or something.
they're non-respawnable, but they don't have their own name like title and health bar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
okay.
I consider all these actual bosses and minor spoiler, but just for anyone who's watching and wants to have an idea of like how big this game is, and just for the two of you, I looked it up because I was like, yeah, small detail. There's over 120 bosses in this game,
Sounds
which is just
amazing.
absolutely crazy. Because I think like I've probably killed like 15, and that's nothing compared to the amount that are in the game. I've only killed like
Yeah, so I'm like
two main
7 or
bosses.
8.
The only
um,
one that I can really remember, hold on,
no, go
I
ahead.
just remembered another one. A funny one that I remember. Have you guys fought the one that looks like a cat?
No, I don't know. I
No?
haven't know that
It's
one.
in the beginning area. I
Yeah,
don't want to
it's
say
like in
anything else
the
about
big
it.
field.
I don't think
Yeah,
so. I feel like I would remember that. We can talk like more spoilery off stream, but
That's fine.
my favorite boss that I've fought was I'm gonna say its name Because that's not going to be a
That's
spoiler. Is that
fine.
okay? Okay.
It's fine. I won't know
It's
nothing
called
about
the
it.
Ancestral Beast. Have y'all fought that one?
Mm-mm.
No.
That sounds really familiar. I
That
think
one
maybe
is
I have.
really cool. I'll say you have to light some torches to find it, and it was a really cool area that I just happened upon. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys
Yeah.
have completely missed it. Um, but it was a really cool area and lead up to a cool fight. And the again, no spoilers for the fight itself, but it wasn't most Dark Souls bosses that are like imposing are because they're either really big and really strong, or they're really fast and like
Yeah.
always close the distance. But this one was neither. This one was very graceful, and it was about like keeping its distance, and it was just something completely different. And as somebody who's using a great sword, uh, it's very hard to hit an enemy that is constantly dancing around you.
We didn't
Um,
even talk about that. What characters we're running?
yeah, so I was gonna
Yeah.
get to that. I'm playing as a warrior. Not that your starting class really matters, but I started as a warrior. I'm basically running it like a knight though, with like the best armor I have and like the biggest sword that I can and a shield. I just had higher like strength starting out as a warrior, I think, so that's why I picked it. What about you, John?
I started out as a confessor, and right now I'm just running a healing spell and a fireball spell. And yeah, I my goal right now, because I really wanted to try it, was to try to do a lance-based or halberd-based sort of run.
Mm-hmm.
So a weapon like that. Still getting used to the halberd that I just found before I got off last night. Um, that's what I'm going with right now. I may change it up if I'm not liking the halberd as much as I thought I would. But I'm hoping for like a spear of some kind, very similar to the one that the Dark Souls 3 boss uses. What's his
Mm-hmm.
name? The Nameless King. Something similar to that.
This might be more of a.
That
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say the one that looks kind of like a sword at the end where he swings it like this instead of stabbing with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for something like that, but I'm still at the beginning of the game, so I might be holding out for better weapons like that for the closer to the middle or the end. But
This might not be quite what you're looking for, but I got it's kind of more of a scythe, but I got a double sided scythe that takes
I do
faith.
love Scythe. Oh my gosh, I
So
love the that's my
if you're
that's my
interested,
item in Dark Souls 3.
if you're interested, I can like look up the item and tell you where I found it. Because it seemed pretty cool,
The
but it
wing
requires
scythe.
faith. Yeah, I think it was the winged scythe.
Hmm.
What about you, Ryder?
I guess I'm running a quality build, and for those of you not versed in Dark Souls uh, lore, lots of health, strength, dex, and endurance. So stamina, health, and then the ability to pretty much use any weapon that's not going to require faith or intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Usually the go-to is like, you know, hit soft cap and health, which varies from game to game. Some it's 40, some it's 27. And then with your strength and dex, hit like 40. And then endurance is typically, however much you need to roll appropriately and get a decent amount of swings in before you poop out. Um, and like on the subject of kind of how we're playing the game. Okay, also I chose Vagabond to begin with.
That's what I was gonna
Uh,
ask.
I'm still using the Vagabond armor because I have not found anything that's even comparable in weight or um, just general protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using a sword that I can't actually remember the name of, but I know it's from a really cool area that we've kind of talked about. It's from the Everjails. It's from the very first one that I found. I think the first one that probably you two found too. We talked a bit about it before the recording started.
I got the name.
There's Yeah, you can go ahead and throw the name out because I'm going
The
to talk about that for a sec.
Bloodhound Knight, Dara Will.
Yeah, so that's what it was, the Bloodhound Knight. Kurt also made mention that it kind of moved like a Bloodborne boss, and I kind of feel that. To me, it really reminded me of the Dancer of the Boreal
Mm-hmm.
Valley, like the sword shape, the way it like moved on all fours, and like kind of did these like lunging sweeps as it like ran past you. Like the Dancer plus Fort of the Boreal Valley from Dark Souls 3. Anyways, fun little like side boss fight. but I'm using the sword that he has, like the Bloodhound's Fang or something like that is what it's called. Really, really good. It's like a mix between it's a great sword, but has like these like really cool like dex move sets, and so it uses your FP to get like lots of spins in, and like it can like duck you back away from the boss. So it's really
Hmm.
cool because you can get a really powerful hit on it and then shoot back. So it's kind of like a dodge plus a attack like built into one. So that's really cool. I'm also using an Uchi
That's
like
what
on
I
the
was
side.
using.
It's just so fast. Like, and this
In the
is one of those
bleed.
games where it matters how fast you are. And I love the direction that these games have gone as far as like how aggressive bosses have become.
Hmm.
But with that, it becomes less and less viable to run really, really heavy tanky
You
builds.
can't stop me,
And
Ryder.
I mean, it is possible, but I've heard horror stories about people getting to some of the later bosses and just hitting a wall
Hmm.
and just, I mean, literally fighting a boss like 80, 90 times and just giving up on the game because they've built themselves into a hole with their build and there's no way around it. So just something to be wary of.
That'll be me.
I I could be wrong. I think I've read that there's a way to respec like in the late game.
Yeah, I'm sure there
Um,
is.
yeah, I played Dark Souls 3 with like heavy armor and a halberd. That was like kind of medium speed. Played Dark Souls 2 with a hammer, just like a short hammer, and it was pretty quick. Didn't love that build. Dark Souls 1, I played by swinging around a giant tree trunk. And that is the most fun that I've had with the Souls series. Um, and so I'm trying to recreate that experience. And so my weapon's literally called a greatsword, but it's very strange because it's not in the greatsword category. It's in the ultra greatsword category,
It's
and
the great sword.
it would put Cloud Strife to shame. It is like 8 or 9 feet long, and it literally
Wow.
is like I press the button and it's like
It's like this wide.
yeah, and it's
It was my
like
favorite sword.
2 seconds just for a basic attack, and it's wonderful. And I have it at like +10, and so there are almost no enemies that I don't two shot, even like the scary ones right now. But I gotta say, we've been saying a ton of positive stuff, so I'm gonna veer negative for a second.
Time to be negative. Yeah.
When I'm in like what you're calling the legacy dungeons, when I'm in John, when I'm exploring like the castles and things like that, and the caverns
Hmm.
and what have you, I it feels like it's the evolution of Dark Souls that I wanted. The combat feels better, the enemies are interesting, the level design is still fascinating.
I love the
um,
castle that I did.
hmm but when I'm just running through the open world, it's cool. Like, oh, there's a group of wolves over there, and it's like, oh, I killed all the wolves. Now the alpha showed up. Like that's cool to discover just randomly, but it doesn't feel as much like I'm getting this meticulous, catered experience like you do in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because those games are more linear, and so they just the nature of open world games versus linear games. You're dealing with a smaller like breadth of just direction, and so you can fine tune every single detail along the way. Whereas when it's open world, like you introduce the sense of discovery, which is cool. There's generally moments of I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But generally, I think I prefer the more linear nature of the older games so far. Again, John, minor spoiler. Once you get through the area you're about to go through, it kind of, which is a more linear area, and I was like super digging it. I was like, this is exactly what I want. You finish it, and then it's like, and here's another open world that's bigger than the last one, and I'm like,
Oh boy, here we go
yeah,
again.
I'm overwhelmed because I was very proud of myself for filling in the map on the other place, and it's like I genuinely haven't played more than 30 minutes since I beat that boss a week ago, just because I don't know that I have like the emotional energy to like explore another area that big. I don't know if that makes sense, but I miss the more catered, streamlined, linear routes from the older games. Has that feeling come up for either of you?
Not so far, but I haven't, made it past Margit yet, the
Hmm.
first main boss. So I'm still in that first area. I am enjoying running around. Um, there are some instances where it feels a little empty, but that's just what you're going to get for an open world game. The ones that I've played before, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, stuff like that, has all been, open world. And there's a lot of places where it doesn't feel like there's much going on. But and Breath of the Wild I played as well. So, I mean, that's just what comes with an open world game in my mind anyway. But
Hmm.
I haven't made it farther to see, what you're talking about exactly, especially since you said this next area is going to be even bigger. So,
I mean, I'll be honest. I obviously haven't explored it, so I can't like
yeah.
verify that. But that's the feeling I got, just based on seeing. Because it felt very much like there were even messages on the ground when I like walked into this new area, and it was like, "Congratulations, now time for only the beginning." And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, that's intimidating. What about you, Ryder?
I'm, I'm only 20 hours in, and I feel like I was lied to a lot before this game was released because I remember seeing one article in particular that said Elden Ring is roughly 30 hours long, but is extremely dense, and that is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Half lie. It is extremely dense, but it is not a 30-hour game. I mean, you can go look right now on how long to beat, and it's like 90 hours is the average right now for main plus extras. I mean, it's like 130 or something like that for perfectionist playthroughs. And even then, that's people using guides because there's no way on earth someone is 100%ing this game in 130 hours without help
Mm-hmm.
because it's so big. And for better or worse, I I, I think that when I first started the game, I was overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
because I went into this being like Dark Souls 4 and Breath of the Wild starts off so small because it starts you off with this like the exploration and whatnot, but it does it in this way where like um you have to go through the four like initial shrines on like the
Mm-hmm.
Hyrule Plateau or whatever it's called, and then you go out to the wider world, but you don't immediately have a horse and I don't know, generally it felt to me like I had like a smaller bit of progression and the
Mm-hmm.
stakes weren't as big, but like this game I started it and they're like, hello, good tarnished, you must become Elden Lord. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's Dark Souls. Okay,
Makes
sounds
sense.
about right. And then I come out of the cave like Link in Breath of the Wild, and I'm on my own Hyrule, plateau, and kind of introduced to the world of Limgrave, the lands between, everything else, and then you start exploring. And I felt just absolutely lost. Like I knew where I
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to go, but I was like, I don't. What am I doing? And Dark Souls games, they've never really been heavy on the story. Some a little bit more than others, but the fun of the story is looking through the item descriptions and stuff like that, and the occasional character dialogue
Do
or
the
cutscene you'll get.
do the items have like things you could read? Because I tried to do that
Hmm.
last night and I didn't see it. I must
Yeah,
It
have
depends
you
on
not
the
have to
clicked the
like
item.
right button.
triangle or something,
Okay,
or
I
like
tried to
right
look at like a
stick or something.
normal halberd and it didn't. I thought I clicked all the buttons, but I guess not. Okay, I'll have
I
to
think
try that
it's
again today.
square is if you have the default configuration on PC.
Okay.
But anyway, it overwhelmed me for a little bit, and part of it I know for a fact was that I was not getting long sessions to play in.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a game I think that you can pick up in hour increments. I think that when you play it, you need to have time to do 3 hours because you're not going to. And I know, like, yeah, that's a lot, and it's a lot for me, trying to juggle having someone that I love and care about and my own like family life and work and everything else. But I make sure that when I start this game, I refuse to play it unless I'm going to get at least 2 hours in
Yeah.
because you are not going to scratch the surface and you're going to leave the game feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. Versus if you have that time period of 2 to 3 hours to play, which is hard for a lot of people. So I mean, if you want something shorter that you can do in smaller bursts, go play like Dark Souls 1, or go play Bloodborne maybe. But this is one of those games that even though there's checkpoints all over the map, those checkpoints are meaningless unless you're actually like going and looking underneath rocks, literally looking behind bushes, behind waterfalls. And that's awesome finding that cave that you didn't know is there, but it requires you to just dig and dig and dig.
Hmm.
And I think that Stormvale Castle, where John is at right now, is just the epitome of Dark Souls. Like it's just absolutely crazy how dense that area is.
Hmm.
There are entire video games that aren't as well detailed and just convoluted and stacked on top of each other as that castle is. I probably spent 7 hours in that castle and know for a fact that I have multiple areas that I did not get to. And I said, it's fine. I'll worry about it later on a different playthrough. Like I found lifts that I'm like, I can't use that. I don't know how to use
Yeah.
that. Maybe I'll find it. And I didn't find it. And I said, oh well, because I know this is a game that I'll come back to. It might take me a few years, but I'm going to come back to this and explore in a different area.
And that brings me to kind of what I want to close on with this.
I had two
I
things I wanted to mention as well.
Oh sure, throw those out real quick.
So, we did talk about how Elden Ring was gonna like revitalize the series and get a lot of new people in, and I gotta agree with that because I've had a few people telling me, back from my hometown that they are loving Elden Ring, and they are very, very into Elden Ring, and I brought up, well, have you tried any of the Dark Souls ones before? And a few times I've heard yeah, and I'm gonna censor myself, and they say forget Dark Souls. I love Elden Ring though. I so
There's
I
almost like a
guess
disconnect, and it's like
yeah,
you're just playing other Dark Souls.
Yeah.
yeah. I
But
didn't bring that up, but and then
I mean,
go ahead.
just on that point real quick, because I think it's important that like this is I brought it up very briefly, but this is the most accessible Souls born game ever created because I don't I'm one of those people that I'll make fun of you and say, oh, get good, get good, you just suck at the game. Or like you're not being a purist, you're not doing a quality build, only melee,
To,
no
to
magic,
clarify,
no
you said you're
summons.
not one of those people. Or
I
you
think I said I'm one of those people.
you said you are. Okay, okay.
I was gonna say I heard he
I
is one of those
I did
people.
too. I was
I'm
just
one of
making
those
sure
people. I
that it
I
wasn't a
make fun
trick
of
of your
them.
mind. Oh, you make fun
I'm
of those people.
Yeah, I make fun. I'm saying like you shouldn't do
Gotcha.
that. But like, it's fine. You can play the game you want to with the other Souls games. But this is one of those games that it is very, very hard not to do that because some of these bosses are just extremely, extremely difficult. But the game encourages you to do it. I mean, you're going to have a hard time if you want to go a purist build, no summons, no magic. But very early on, they're like, here's a literal NPC summon that you can just summon outside or like of an area or like inside the boss room, along with actual summon signs.
Hmm.
Like the game encourages you to do that, and so I think that this is going to introduce a lot of people to the series and keep a lot of people in a way that I remember I worked at GameStop and people would buy Dark Souls and bring it back in within 3 days because like this is ridiculous. I hate this. But Elden Ring has more purchases than any other Souls game, and I've heard more raving reviews about it than any other Souls game.
And I don't know what the completion rate is for Souls games in general, but I know that anytime I get a trophy for beating like a milestone boss, I'll like just check the percentage. And for
Like
the
70%.
yeah, exactly, like the what I would consider like the boss after like Margit, who I would consider the wall, the boss after the wall is like 65-70% like of people who purchased it or started the game have gotten this far. And I'm like, really? This is like this took commitment from me, and I'm like a fan of the series, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
John, did you get the second point you wanted to say real quick?
Yeah, so the graphics look amazing, but for some reason, my rig that could definitely handle this game is getting stuttering issues, and I would really like for that to be addressed in the future.
Yeah, I've heard. I'm playing
But
on PS5. I haven't had any issues, but I've heard that PC has been problematic. Ryder, I think you
well,
could speak to that.
Yeah.
my
I
computer's a beast, and it has stuttering issues unless I put it on medium, even though my usage on my graphics card and my CPU stay exactly the same. So I don't know.
I I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I mean, if you get on Steam, click on the reviews, and you will see this game was. People said review bombed. I don't think that's fair. Review bombing is something that happens whenever, a whole bunch of people who think they're Giga Chads are like, "Ugh, I hate the woke agenda. I'm gonna give this movie a bad review even though I've never seen it."
Yeah,
These are reviews from people who've actually played the game, and they're like, "No, it is near broken at some points, and it's ridiculous that I paid this money." And you know, as studio as big as you at this point is still having these issues. And this is the first Souls game I've ever given a negative review, but I did on Steam. And I've played, Steam is like, you played 10 hours since you gave your review. Do you want to revise it? And at the moment, no. I'll go back and revise my review to something positive when there's an update that fixes it.
sure.
But the game has been out for over a month at this point, and I still have to essentially put a band-aid on it every time I open the game. I have to like verify game files, or the game crashes into the weirdest places or stutters, and it's frustrating. Again, I'm done. I don't want to
No, you're okay.
complain anymore. But these are real issues that FromSoft has made a statement about, but. Where's the update? Also, I feel bad complaining at the same time because not trying to chase rabbits, but there's a whole article that came out like 3 weeks ago about their treatment of their employees,
Yeah,
people living in Tokyo that are like experienced game designers working for this, or developers rather, working for this company that is a multi-million dollar company, paying their developers, again in Tokyo, one of the most expensive cities in the world, like $27,000 a year. That's
That's insane.
ridiculous.
yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
it's frustrating because again, like
It's like
Miyazaki, the
minimum
director,
wage.
yeah, no, it's criminal, literally. Um, Miyazaki, the CEO of the company, the director of these games, like someone that like I value as like an artist and like as a professional. And I think that he is, pushing boundary of like video games and the genre and whatnot. It's really frustrating for their employees to be treated so poorly. And part of
Yeah,
it is work culture in Japan is just absolutely, um, you know, ridiculous as far as the ideas of like what is expected out of their workers and just like personal responsibility and stuff like that. But when you make literally, $600 million on a video game when it sells, you can afford to pay your employees, more than 27,000 a year. I'm done with that, but I just again I feel bad even complaining about it because all I can think of is like, the poor employees who already are probably working, 80-hour weeks are now probably cranking away trying to fix this game that was semi broken at launch.
yeah. I mean that's just I mean, let's not dig too deep into this. Just I mean, it's totally fine that you brought this up. But CD Projekt Red also had uh just a flop of a launch technically. And they were also a company with a culture of just not treating their workers well. And I think consistently stories are coming out about these huge studios that are trying to make these huge games, and their employees are being abused, and the games are just not successful. And it's not because there aren't talented people working on them. It's because of the scheduling and the demands of the job. It's just unreasonable. And hopefully these lessons, or hopefully they're learning something. Like these are lessons instead of just like, oh well, let's fire these people and keep going. Which unfortunately tends to be what happens. Not that it matters, but PS5 games, those are $70 now. I'm just curious, on Steam, is it also 70 or was it 60?
It was
Elden
60.
Ring, 60.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just curious. Granted, I got mine like at Walmart, and Walmart does weird sales, so mine was like $50. So maybe Elden Ring released on retail at 60, but I thought it was 70. Not that that makes a huge difference in the price. I was just thinking when you were saying people were like, "Oh, I paid X amount of dollars," and I just thought about that. Um, so as we're wrapping up here, personally, I want to keep playing it, but it's like I'm going to have to make the effort to continue, which is not something that's happened with me with a Souls like or a Souls game before. So again, I don't intend to just shelve this, but how are you guys feeling? Are you guys eager to jump back in, or you guys feel like you kind of hit a wall?
I'm playing it as soon as we're done recording.
I wanted to play it before we started recording, but I didn't have time.
Yeah,
Just hour count for everyone. I'm 20 hours in. I think I don't know
13.
how far either one of you are. Kurt, how are you?
It's harder to count on PS5. I'm not sure if I had to
It
Oh,
guess.
shows it at the load screen.
Oh, does it?
Check it next time.
I'd have to
Mhm.
double check. I'm not sure. Probably somewhere between 15 and 20 hours if I was going to guess, but I'm not sure.
I'm at
I
13.
think 16 or
I've just
17.
hit the point where I've explored enough of the map to where I can just ignore other areas. Like I'm
Mm,
not worried about it. I'll come back to it every once in a while, but I'm enjoying it. It's not a chore at this point, and riding torrent helps so much. And I'm not it's not a laborious process for me. I'm not looking underneath every single rock, but if I see a message over here, I go,
yeah.
and so it just depends on like how you want to play it, but I can understand why it would be overwhelming though.
Yeah, I think realistically, it's just because I'm in this new open area and I haven't found something to cling to, and so I just think I need to discover like the one area that's gonna make me be like, oh, cool, let me explore this, and then that's gonna lead me to something else, which leads me to something else. But right now, it's just sort of this just big, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do with
Mhm.
this right now. I don't know that I can commit to this, but I'll probably give it another shot. We talked about this earlier in the episode, but I'm wrapping up Kirby, and so I'll probably jump back in once I am not spending every evening playing that. But anyway, hey guys, we did it. This has been the second episode of our titular show, Press A to Talk. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to leave a comment and let us know what you liked about it. Let us know how you feel about Elden Ring or any other games we talked about. A like and
Of course, after
subscribe.
you've liked and subscribed, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna show it to you, John. If you like and subscribe, it really helps out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.